Hello, everybody. Welcome to, I would say, a 50% as special edition of the Career Sprout LinkedIn Live. For those of you who are new here, you don't know this, but I usually have a counterpart with me. Gaurav Villani is usually here, but he is on a lovely vacation, a much overdue vacation, actually, with his family at the moment. So y'all are stuck with me and me laughing at my own jokes. For those of you who are new, my name is Katie. I am actually shifting gears and leading up some of our fun product initiatives at Career Sprout, where we help folks land 200 to 500K plus tech jobs in the US. And in addition to that, we tell a lot of jokes along the way. Well, I tell a lot of jokes and I try to get some laughs from people. Oftentimes they're pity laughs. I don't have anybody today to tell me if it's good or bad in real time. So I'll see y'all's delayed reactions in the comments here. Somebody said they can't hear anything. Let me know if you guys can hear me and see me. And without further ado, I'm going to dive into the joke of the day. And then, and Maya's here, so she'll laugh. I'm going to dive into the joke of the day. And then I'm actually going to shift a little bit from what I expected we were going to do today because more resumes came in than we'll be able to handle. So I have something that I think you guys will be happy about, fingers crossed, and we'll go from there. Okay, so today's joke of the day, this is another one that comes from our friend Stephanie, who was very kind to send in, quite frankly, a boatload of jokes that I have been cracking up at. So I'm going to share one of my favorite ones. She's the one that gave us the golf one last week. Okay. This one is, what did one hat say to the other? And there's nobody here to guess, so I guess I'll just say it. What did one hat say to the other? He said, "You stay here. I'll go on ahead." Get it? Ahead. Well, normally I get a head shake from Garv or somebody in the comments saying that they like it or didn't, but hopefully you enjoyed that as much as I did. If you didn't, keep it to yourself. And we'll dive in. Okay, today, original goal, it was to review as many resumes as possible, give y'all some live feedback. But I have some exciting news, which is really ironic because when I did a post about this, I said that we don't have any AI tools to make your life, to solve all of your life problems. But I guess it's still true because this is not going to solve all of your problems, but it'll solve some of your resume problems. We have had, I've been working with good old Maya Drill in the background of things for a couple weeks now, working on putting together a resume GPT. Now, it is not done yet. I'm not giving this to anybody. However, what I thought would be really cool is, I don't know the exact time or date yet. I'm thinking Tuesday of next week. I will host don't expect Gaurav to show up. He's not going to show up to a resume only event. But I'm going to just do like a private, I don't know how many people Zoom allows into a room. I think it's like 50 or 100. I'm going to just send out an invite in our newsletter on Sunday to invite whoever can come to a Zoom meeting. So it's going to be private. It's not going to be recorded. It's not going to be posted on LinkedIn. So for those of you who sent me messages saying like, hey, I don't want to comment on or like send in my resume because I don't want my, boss to find out that I'm looking for a job. This is going to be completely just like a private group of us on Zoom. And I am going to work with you guys. I'm thinking, depending on how many people show up, if it's just me and like 2 other people, it'll probably take like 10 minutes. But if there's a lot of people, we're going to just have y'all beta test this resume writer, I guess is what we can call it, resume assistant, resume GPT, to actually write. My goal is going to be to write everybody's resume in real time. So now you'll be doing it. I'll tell you what inputs to put in, and then we'll edit the feedback together. I'll actually record it so that we've got it and we can tinker with it, but it won't get sent out to a list or anything like that. So that is going to be, if you're not on the newsletter and just sign up for it. You can just go to careersprout.com/newsletter. And I'll send, once I finalize the time, the date, time, and Zoom link, I'll send all of that out on Sunday. Now, let's dive in. We are still going to get to some resumes today, but just hopefully that's a bonus for those of you that we don't get, that we aren't able to get to today, if you're not able to do this on your own with just the information that we get. So without further ado, let's dive into the good stuff. Before we do, I just want to frame, because we've been getting a lot of flack, or a little bit of flack, a lot is dramatic, about talking about how unimportant the resume is, or how it's only important to have a good enough resume, not a perfect resume. And there's some people who disagree with that. And I will say to those people, you know what, you're right. There are so many different ways, and it is important to have a good resume, but what we have seen, or what we are classifying as a good resume, goes against what a lot of the gurus and experts say is a good resume. And so I want to frame this by saying, if you have heard differing opinions from other people, they're probably correct. We are only sharing, or I am only sharing, what we have seen work after working with hundreds of folks, helping them land jobs. I'm only sharing the strategy that we share with our clients, nothing else. I know there's other ways that work out there. So part of the frame that I want to go into this is the real joke of the day, actually, is there have been, and many of you have already seen this, there have been a ton of people who share their resumes that have got them interviews just to prove a point, where it's like, I don't know that the recruiters and hiring teams are actually reading the resumes. And do some recruiters read every resume, every word? Absolutely. But there's a lot of people like this. I'm going to share 2 resumes that people tested. It wasn't even their real name, wasn't their real history or anything, but it landed them a boatload of interviews by applying with it. But what happens is, when you read through this, you'll see, okay, it's Angelina, she's a software engineer. And then you see some of the things she's an expert in, and you read the way most people read: Instagram, Zillow, okay, cool, really cool. And then you see that she built some of these things. She led a team, awesome, provided some things, cool. And most people, that's how they're scanning resumes. Not everybody, again, there's people who read every word. This is a resume that got in a bunch of interviews. They did not know that she was the team coffee maker. Why? Because they didn't read all of the details. They didn't read that she ensured her team of 6 was fully caffeinated, or she had some experiences, or that she, spread herpes to 60% of the team. They just scanned. That was all. And there's been a ton of people, I could pull up a bunch. There's been a ton of people. This one is highlighted of all of the things, of like mining Ethereum, dog winning the World Cup by 20%, reducing photo grouping time, Amazon dating team, like nonstop crying in the main office. There's all of these things that have listed, and these are resumes that have actually gotten interviews. And so for some people, that's super frustrating to see that and be like, I have spent so much freaking time, effort, attention on my resume, and I'm not even getting interviews. And I don't talk about spreading herpes and different things to people. What the heck? Okay. So in today's call, my goal is to share with you, and I'm not going to go through everything because we've already done, there's free, you guys have access to this. It's on the website. It's how to write a good enough resume. There's a video walkthrough. There's some funny jokes sprinkled through. There's a video walkthrough of everything. But it's about writing a good enough resume, and we're going to walk through what that is. And one of the things that I really want to we're not going to walk through what that is today. I'm going to walk through it with real examples. I'm not going to give you all of the instructions because they're all here, and I don't really want to repeat myself 18 times. But what I want to really emphasize here is how valuable your time is. And I'm a little bit of, I think it's worth, I'll set a timer for like 5 minutes here so I don't take too long to go through it. But I'm a really big fan, especially for the people who need a job right now or feel like they need a job because they're in a really tough situation from being laid off or they're not in a good place. It's really easy to just slap together a resume of all of the stuff that you've ever done and go find more of what you don't like. versus taking a beat, taking a minute to first identify the target role that makes sense for you in this season of life. What is the next role? That doesn't always mean ascending up. There are some people we've worked with. One of my all-time favorite clients, if we're allowed to have favorite clients, she came to us at the C-suite level and she said, hey, I actually want to take a step back. I want to prioritize my family in this season of life. So I would love to work in an environment that allows me to do this, and this. Like, that's what I would like. I don't care about anything other than these 4 things. And so identifying the right role for you is the very first step. Then your resume starts with that role in mind. And so what I mean by that, and I'll get into it right now. I'm going to start with good old Jeffrey here. I actually don't know how old he is. Sorry if I just called you old. This is a really good example of he has got a ton of really great information on his profile here. And some of you that submitted your resume, you'll notice that I asked, hey, what's the role that you're targeting? I can guess what role Jeffrey is targeting. I would assume, since he has no real leadership information on here and he's talking about being a senior product manager, I'm assuming he's ready to go for a principal product role, right? Or he may be just targeting a senior product manager role, which is awesome. And so by knowing that and by knowing what role you are targeting, what that allows you to do is then go research the job descriptions. What are the keywords that are repeated over and over again, the keyword phrases repeated over and over and over again on these job descriptions? What we do, or what we used to tell clients to do this, now we just do it for them, is to go research like 15 to 25 job descriptions until you get a really good handle on what recruiters and hiring managers are scanning for. Now, if you are one of the folks that is in a, whatever you want to call it, discipline that we work in, I've done a lot of that work already for you. And so you'll see some of these right here in the how to write a good enough resume. The other thing that I've done is I've actually put together, and this is, you guys can all thank Maya for this. She asked me to put together a library of bullet points for each of the main roles that we generally work with. And so in addition to what y'all have already seen, we're also, and I'll share this more on Tuesday with folks, and I'll make sure that we've got them for the roles that are there, or show you how to make your own. We've already done the work of, hey, here's, like, if you're a product manager or principal product or a product leader, if you're going for an IC role, here are the things that recruiters and hiring managers are going to care about. What kind of products or features have you owned? How do you identify problems, right? Do you need to fit all of this information on your resume? No, some of it needs to be on there, but this is going to be also what you're asked about in interviews. This is going to be also what you're asked about in calls. This is going to be what you actually work on. And so it's a little bit different if you're going for an IC role versus a leadership role. And so what we've done is we've actually just banked a lot of these bullet point examples for the different things that come up, or the different things that an IC, or in this case, a product manager, senior product manager, what are some of the things that you want to have repeated on your resume, or that you want to show on your resume? And then making sure it's really, really easy to understand. Now, Jeff, the reason why I picked him to go first is because he is already using our very plain Jane resume format that we have seen work really well. It's a really concise summary of what it is that you've done. Again, the things that are relevant to a recruiter, because what happens when a recruiter looks at your resume? Well, if we go back to those funny resumes that I had pulled up, I think I X'd out of them. Most recruiters read in an F shape. They're going to read, just most human beings, they're going to read to see what it is here, and then they're going to start scanning down the side of the page here. Now, the first thing that I noticed is he's got a ton of numbers in here, but they're really hidden. They're deep down. Like, it's very unlikely, again, not everybody, but it's very unlikely that somebody's going to go through and read every single word of this 5-line bullet point. So what we want to do, and I've already read through this resume to know that there's a ton of really good stuff in here, but again, I had to read through a ton of lines here. What we want to do is segment it into, we keep this formula or format, but we want to segment it into what is the most important. So if this is the product example, you'll see that there's a lot of overlap here, as there should be, because this is what's important to recruiters and hiring managers. This is for a product leader, so this is going to have a little bit more leadership than what Jeff would. But it says product leader who has X number of experience developing what types of products. What do they have a successful track record of? If you've got leadership experience, make sure you're including that in. But now look at the difference here. So Jeff has a really good summary where he does this really well. He's hitting on all of the important things. One thing I would recommend, Jeff, is you've got really great logos. Whenever we have somebody with great logos, we usually tell them to put them in here. So rather than saying top tier media / entertainment, I would say delivering enterprise products. And I would say what kind, 0 to 1, 1 to N, whatever, from inception to launch. I understand that you have inception to launch here. Those are just nice keywords to have here. And then to say to launch for, you can say media / entertainment and technology companies. And I would remove top tier and just say such as Walt Disney, what was the other one? Warner's, and then you had some other ones, Oracle, 20th Century. Any of the household names, go ahead and put them right up here so it's more likely that somebody sees them. And then the rest of this is really good. Then when it comes to your career highlights, this is going to be something, if you guys have seen or you're familiar with us and you know our 5-step job search system, the first one, getting clarity with your career audit. The next one is the resume and LinkedIn profile, what we're working on here. The third one is outreach. If you've seen that before, you'll know that whenever we do outreach, oftentimes it's coming from a resume. We're starting with, the job description and the resume. And we want to be able to really clearly see, I achieved this, accomplishment by doing something that you see on job descriptions. I achieved this by doing something that you see on these job descriptions. I achieved this by doing this thing, right? I achieved this by doing this thing. And then if you're a leader, we pretty much always talk about promotions and how you've helped people do that. And so when I'm scanning through this, I can really quickly see this is somebody who has a history of getting wins for their companies. Whereas with you, I'm seeing that you spearheaded things, that you led things, that okay, this one, really good. You did save Disney. Okay, you did deliver these things, but it's buried. I've got to get through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines before I get to something that's really clean and clear for me to see. And so you end up losing a lot of people when you have it set up in this way. So my first recommendation here, and for anybody watching, shorten these up a little bit. And now I've gotten called out because I usually say no more than 2 lines, and then somebody will come to me and be like, what happens if I have 4 characters on the 3rd line? It's okay. Don't stress about it. So it's, I achieved quantifiable accomplishment by doing, insert something from the job descriptions. That's a formula that we use for career highlights. We also use that for the key achievement section here. So if you're looking at any of our resumes that we've written, we always have a couple of bullet points of the scope, the responsibilities. This is the stuff repeated across job descriptions. And then key achievements. How did you move the needle for those companies? Responsibilities, how many people did you leave, stuff like that. And then how'd you move the needle for the company? Responsibilities, how'd you move the needle for the company? And so when we go back to Jeff's here, he's already got it separated that way, which is 2 thumbs up. Now what we want to do, I'm going to come back to the career break section here. Now what we want to do is, again, just shorten these up a little bit, and you'll notice it's a little bit muddied here. You've got quantifiable accomplishments. You're trying to do too much in one section. You want to make it really clear. Here's here's what I was in charge of. And then this streamlining operations by 30%. I didn't see this right away. That's something that belongs down here. And I'm assuming that's exactly what this thing is here. So you get to remove all of the quantifiable accomplishments from the responsibility section and just give the scope, right? So again, if we're going back here, who did you lead cross-functionally or on your team? Who did you collaborate with? Were you implementing things? And here's all of the different things. So going through the lens of what What do recruiters and hiring managers care about? Who are you collaborating with? Who are you partnering with? What are you measuring? What are you doing? Those are the types of things that belong in that responsibility section. And at a director level, obviously it's a little bit more leader oriented. And then same thing, once you get down to the achievements, care about the impact, actual impact of how you move the needle for the company, for the department, for the team, for an individual, whatever the case may be, through those different buckets of what is important for product. Now, what's important for product is different than what's important for customer success or marketing, things like that. And so this content, really, really good. Just now put it through that filter so that you're shortening it up. And you don't have to repeat the same numbers in the top and the bottom. That's just causing readers fatigue at this point. So separate those two things out from responsibilities and key achievements so that it's easier for us to see how you did some really cool things here. And you do have some really cool stats. Let's see. And then this is far closer to what it should look like. How you have, okay, you were the liaison between these folks, you led this, created current, awesome. And then here though, so responsibilities are good. Here's where we need to talk about, here's how I moved the needle. So what did you do? Delivered reporting on time, or you reduced manual reporting hours, X%, whatever, by doing this. Doubling scalability. That's something like I would never even see that. I have to read every single word. I have to burn a lot of categories, a lot of brain calories to see or get to this point. It's just so buried in it. And so then when we're coming down here, we also you got a lot of content here. You don't really need to go back. I wouldn't go back earlier. Even this isn't necessarily super important. I would probably just emphasize, you can keep that one because it's only two different companies that you've worked with. I would move this to the other section. This is not, if there's any really valuable things, like this is a cool stat, you can add that to your career highlights, but I would just move this into the other professional experience down here because it's not as relevant. And then let's see, the career break was the other thing. Let me know if this is helpful. If you guys have questions as we're going through it, let me know that as well. But especially if I am looking at yours, hopefully you're on here live, Jeff. I thought I saw your name. Let me know if this is helpful or if there's any follow-up questions. And then the career break, this was actually the other reason why I wanted to make sure we did yours first, is because you did a ton of good things on here that'll be helpful for other folks to see. And then a couple of these little tweaks of how you can make it easier for folks to read and make sure there's no red flags on there. So for those of you who have a career break, or Jeff, in this case, where you have a career break, I'm actually a fan of putting the career break in here, especially if you did something really cool. So we've had people put career breaks in here and say like, went on an 8-month hike or cared for parents, whatever. It's totally fine for you to do that. If that was like really like you just went and you took and you had a reset from work, totally fine for you to share that. I would make it sound fun, right? You don't necessarily need to make it sound like, if you are going to do this, and this is very much an opinion thing, this is not the end all be all. There's a lot of recruiters that are going to disagree with me on this one. Hopefully none of them are watching live, especially if it's somebody that I reached out to in the last couple of days. But don't make it sound like I don't think it works really well when you try to talk about like how you managed all of these things and you're trying to equate it all to your work. Like I would just call it out as like an opportunity to have gratitude, grateful to be able to take intentional time away from work, to spend time, you could say, caring for an elderly parent or traveling or insert whatever it is that you did. That's perfectly fine if that is what you did on your break. We've had a lot of people recently who have considered and have done fractional or consulting work. That is a phenomenal thing. If you actually have done work even if it's like you're in marketing and you know, built out your board and you built out like the whole campaign for your brother who owns a concrete cutting company or whatever. It's like, talk about the things that you have actually done through the lens of what's important to recruiters and hiring managers. If you have any sort of consulting work that you have done right now, that absolutely is a great thing to put here as well. And there's a lot more people that have been working on cool side projects or side gigs that they never would have had time to, and they just took that time to reset and enjoy doing that. Awesome. Okay, let's see. I wrote a book that's for sale on Amazon. Well, heck yeah, Jeff, we'll put that thing. Well, you don't necessarily have to like, one thing I will say, I'm actually glad you said this. There's a difference between talking about, and you'll have to be ready to address this because it can be an orange flag. If you're saying that you're doing fractional work or consulting work, it can be a little bit of an orange flag to some folks who think that you're going to be still continuing to do that work, and they're going to be paying and they're going to be like funding your business, and you're going to be doing your own thing on company time. And so you will want to make it very clear where it's like, you know, I was really fortunate after the Disney layoffs, or really fortunate after I left Disney, that I had this entrepreneurial itch that I knew if I didn't do it then, I was probably never going to do it. And so you know, we sat down as a family and decided I was going to give it 18 months and see if I enjoyed it. And you know what? I really enjoyed parts of it, but I missed, insert what it is that you missed that is really relevant. I missed being part of a cross-functional team, leading a cross-functional team, being a part of an enterprise that already has systems. Like, I didn't enjoy wearing the hat of bookkeeper and, you know, marketing and this and this. Like, I really enjoyed just this. And so I'm excited to get back in, and I'm being very intentional about finding a place, you know, where I can grow, insert all the things that we talk about in the interview modules. And so those are my recommendations there. In terms of like a recent break, it's not going to be the thing for any company that's worth working for. It's not going to disqualify you. There's a ton, people are becoming more and more vocal about that, or I've seen a lot of people becoming more and more vocal about how the fact that they don't care about it. What they do care is if you're really dodgy and trying to hide or lie about it, or if you feel some sort of way about it. Okay, I'm going to pause here before we go on to the next resume, and I'll start answering some questions. Is that why you break out the responsibilities from the achievements to shorten the bullet points? Part of it, yes, it's for ease. It's not just shortening, but it's making it easier for the hiring teams to find the information that they need. What if our results are binary, i.e. got a drug approved by FDA or did not get it approved? Hard to put numbers in for this. That's a good question. This falls into the category. I'll tell you what G would say if he was here. He would say, golly, well, he wouldn't say golly, but he would say something to the effect of like, it doesn't matter, just put it in and move on. That is one of the few exceptions where, yes, if it's a binary, I did this, you can go ahead and put that into the key achievements section, even though there's not a number. I would say, and like, did you get 100% of them approved? Got 100% of drugs like that were sent to FDA approved? Then you could put something like that. But yeah, if it is a binary, it's fine for you to do that. And G is also far less picky about these things. He's a progress, not perfection, which has served him very, very well in life, and something that I have learned from slowly over time. Do you suggest not including metrics in the responsibility section and saving them for the key achievement section? Great question. So I suggest keeping, it's not that you never have numbers in the responsibilities. It is valuable to show the scope. So for example, let me go back to sharing my screen real quick. In the responsibility section, it's helpful to give context. Did you lead a project manager, or did you lead, 80 managers, right? Or whatever, insert relevant number. So to give the scope of work is valuable in responsibilities. How you move the needle. Was there a before and an after, right? Or what was the accomplishment? That's what goes into the key achievements or impact or accomplishments, whatever you want to call it there. So totally fine to give like P&L numbers. I'll show you guys the template actually. And this is right here in this resource as well, is our template is give us the scope of what it was. So like demonstrate the scope of the role in that first bullet point, especially. So like overseeing corporate IT while leading a team of this number of people, these types of people, and owning this number of P&L. That gives the scope of your role. And then you're giving, the responsibilities, and then you can talk about how you were able to move the needle in the key achievements. So numbers are okay in the responsibilities. You don't need to talk about accomplishments though. Let me know if that's clear. I know that's a little wishy-washy. All right. For people who have a lot of experience, is there a cap on the number of years you could cover on your resume? Yeah, this is one of those. We usually cap it at 10 to 15 years and only talking about the relevant things. So especially if you've been an executive for 10 or 15 years, like it's very possible that all of that is relevant. But think of it like a movie trailer. You're not trying to give somebody the script for like a 2-hour long movie. You're giving them the movie trailer here. And so you don't need to cover everything. And generally things that were 20 years old, generally things more than 10 years old, aren't super relevant. The technology is not as relevant. The things you're working on then aren't necessarily as relevant. The people leadership things are still relevant, but that's where you can be really concise and move anything that is important and older than 10, 15 years that gets moved to the other experience section. I'm showing, let me share Jeff's again as the example there. You can move it right down here to the other professional experience, because now you're not getting into ageism either. And you're only just put the logos here that are helpful to you, if they are helpful to you. If it was like mom and pop shop, you don't need to put that there. And then going into this much detail, like the things that he did as a senior project manager aren't really that relevant. He can capture all of that information in the more recent responsibilities here. Question, should you keep the selected experience towards the bottom or move it up more? So the selected experience should be right here. This is the structure that we've been using. Summary goes up top, short summary, 1 or 2 paragraphs like that. Career highlights, if you've got 10 plus years of experience or just really impressive highlights, you normally will put about 5 career highlight bullet points. You don't want to do too many there, no more than like 7. And then selected experience goes right here. So the goal would be that somebody is seeing, generally when this is actually written out, generally the first page shows summary, career highlights, and then the most recent role. And then usually this ends up getting bumped down to the second page. Most people can fit onto 2 pages. If you get to 3 pages, it's not the end of the world by any means. Okay, what's the best way to add certifications like PMP to your resume? Great question. Relevant certifications. The place that you put relevant certifications, there's usually 2 places. It's going to be at right after your name. So I think our program manager might have, I didn't put names on this. So if Jeff was a PMP, right, he's an MBA, so he put MBA right there. If he was a PMP, he would put PMP right there. And then at the bottom, under your education and certifications, that's where you can also put it as well. So like CSM, so that we've had some people put comma CSM up there, or comma PMP. If you are one of those people that has 18 different degrees, you don't need to have PhD, MBA, LMNOP, CSM, XYZ. Just pick the 1 or 2 most relevant to put at the top of your name, and you can list the rest of the relevant ones here. This is a great question. Okay. Any tips for creating quantifiable things we can say we did? I'm struggling to come up with the numbers bullets. I am going to share with you the hack that our head coach, Danielle O'Brien, who is a savant when it comes to, all things job search and recruiting and HR. The number of people who come to us and say, hey, I don't have a number. I don't have, like, there was no metric tied to this. I was listening to a coaching call recording that she did where she said, oh, okay, so they just had you do that for fun? Like, that work didn't mean anything. It was just they wanted to waste your time. I'm like, no, of course not. And then almost every time, like when she says that, it's like the business had you working on something for a reason. What was that reason? Think through some of that. And so this is part of the reason why we have this library of bullet points here, is so that when we're working with somebody, we can walk through with them and say, okay, let's spark your memory. What was it that you actually did? And I can't see your job title here. I'm not on like the actual LinkedIn platform. I'm just using the background thing. But what are some of the things that you may have done? Did you grow revenue? Did it impact revenue? Did it accelerate some sort of time? Did it improve NPS or CSAT? Did it improve retention? I actually hate the word boosted. I should have removed that. What are some of the things? So like you can go through the list of things, like this library of things, and say, did any of the stuff that I do have that type of impact? And that can spark some memories. The other thing that you can do, if you're going through and you're going through the job descriptions, and it's, they're talking about being able to define product vision, strategy and goals in alignment with these things, or being able to own end-to-end product lifecycle, whatever. When you're going through it, just pretend like you're going through an interview response, and it's like, hey, tell me about a time you owned, the product vision, or you defined the product vision and strategy and made sure that it was in alignment with business objectives and customer needs. Well, when was one of the times that you did that? And then just in your head, think through like a STAR story. What was the situation? What was the task? What was the action you took? And then what was the result? What impact did that have on the business? And usually you can find some things like, oh, we used to get 3,000 support tickets a day, and then it got down to, 3 support tickets a day. That'd be ridiculous. But so what did that do? It moved the needle on customer support. In what way? Probably decreased the amount of support time needed. It probably increased CSAT or increased NPS. It probably reduced churn, right? And you can start to think through some of the impacts that your work may have had or did have. And then, especially if this is the first time you're doing it and you're trying to remember back, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, you're probably, unless you documented it somewhere, probably going to have to give a guesstimate. You're probably not going to remember off the top of your head, unless you're Sheldon, from the Big Bang Theory. You're probably not going to remember if it was 12.4 or 11.1. And that's okay. What we tell our clients, or the approach we take, is like the same as generally accepted accounting principles. Like, is the IRS going to care if you missed a box of pens on your P&L? Probably not. Are they going to care if you missed $1 billion? Yeah, they care about that a little bit more. So we try to keep it within some, a couple boxes of pens, where if you're like, gosh, I know it cut it by like 50%, 50% is fine. 45% is fine. Whatever your guesstimate there, totally fine, as long as you're within the realm. If you say, hey, we cut support tickets by 50%, but in reality, you actually made a product that made way more support tickets. And so it wasn't actually cutting support by 50%. It doubled the amount of support tickets. Well, no, now you're on the $1 billion, from accounting perspective. That's problematic. Don't lie and say you did something that you didn't actually do, but you can give your best guesstimate there. Good question. Okay, Sean, my last position lasted nearly 15 years. So how do I cover that I have relevant experience beyond that most recent job? If you were in the exact same job, the exact same title, then you would just cover, that experience. If most people have had promotions or things like that at the company that they've just been with. But again, like, I would just ask yourself, was there anything relevant before those 15 years? If yes, you can include it. If not, don't include it. Let's see. When you fill out the application online, do you include the other? You guys are asking really good questions. I don't actually think, I'll see how many more questions we have here. Maybe I'll be able to get to 1 or 2 more resumes just with a quick overview. But again, if you sent your resume in and we didn't get to it, I'll make sure we send out in our newsletter on Sunday information on how to join. I'll just do a private Zoom and we'll walk through some resumes together. When you fill out the application online, do you include the other experience? Full transparency, our clients actually rarely fill out applications. Like, it's more of a formality after they get the offers. Somebody will ask them to fill out the application so they've got their name in their system. So I would say use your judgment. If it's relevant to the company, then yeah, include it in the online application. For example, let's say Warner Brothers. Let's say you're applying for a company at HBO Max, and Warner Brothers was a place that you worked at 15 years ago. Like, having Warner Brothers on your application would probably be helpful or relevant to them. So I would include it in those instances. I know that's not the order of yours, but you can use your judgment there. Let's see. How would you show different roles you had at one company? Great question. So there's a couple of different ways that we do this. It's not a one size fits all here. Sometimes all we do, if somebody has more than one role, sometimes we just do a bullet point like this. Let me share my screen. So this was somebody, dang, I'm really hammering the product folks today. This was somebody, you'll see here, there's just one bullet point that said promoted 5 times with added scope of responsibilities each time. That's one way that we've shown, that will show that somebody has had multiple roles. Why did we do that? Well, if you look at this person's resume, this was a company that she had been at, or he had been at, years ago. And so the promotions before that, it was like the first company that I think they had ever worked at. So they came in, I think it was like an analyst, and then they were a project manager, then they were a senior project manager, then they were a program manager, then they switched to senior product manager, and then they became principal product. Well, principal product was the most senior role they held there. And it was the only one that was actually super relevant to the roles that they were targeting as a product leader. So we did not break it out to talk about all of the roles that they had. There are other times where, and this isn't going to actually show any of them because I've redacted company names. There are other times where it's like they worked at the same company. I think this is somebody no, I did not include that one. There's other times where they've worked at the same company and they grew. They've only been with one company ever in their life. And they have grown from, engineer all the way up to CTO with this company over the last 15 years or whatever it's been. In those instances, we will do something similar, and we will just include, usually it's the most recent 2 or 3, sometimes 4 roles that person held. And again, depending on what is relevant to the role that they're targeting and the quantifiable accomplishments, like what do we have to work with, that determines how we segment that, whether it's just as a bullet point or it deserves its own section. Okay, good question. This is great. Thank you. Well, very happy to hear that, Brooke. Does it matter if the metrics in our resume are not exact, and how can we show that? Well, I guess it depends. No, it is not a problem usually if it's not exact. So if you're really not sure what it was, then you can just say, like, you can do one of those squiggly lines if you wanted, or you can just give it like the guesstimate, say like 20%. Again, as long as it's within a box of pens. Don't say it was increased by 20% if it was actually 2% or closer to 2%. Just give your best guesstimate there. Let's see. Okay. I've done a lot of consulting work and I've been hesitant about sharing those details on LinkedIn. How do you address this discrepancy between resume and LinkedIn? I am hearing that I'm hearing that recruiters are looking at LinkedIn first. That's also what we have seen to be true and hear to be true from recruiters. It is a pretty big red flag to a lot of people if your resume does not match your LinkedIn profile, because they think that there's something that you're lying about on your resume is the human response there. And so if you've got a lot of consulting work, there's an example in that sheet that I've shared 18 times today. I should just leave my screen shared. There's a consultant example or somebody with fractional work example. How we usually talk about that. She's been doing fractional consulting work forever. Same thing. We talked about the responsibilities that were relevant to the next role that she was targeting. And then just, if you have enough data to do this, or you've been a consultant long enough, you can just separate it by the types of impact that you've had, again, through the lens of what matters to recruiters and hiring managers, and put your key accomplishments there, rather than sharing, for company XYZ, it resulted in this thing, especially if it's confidential. If you have name brands or household brands that people would recognize, then we usually put that there. It'd be like, I don't know, Walt Disney impact, Warner Brother impact, Google impact, insert whoever your clients were and give the accomplishments there. That's generally how we'll do it. Or if you don't have, let's say you've only been consulting maybe for the last 8 months or 18 months, whatever it is, you could have fewer things. I think that product person actually had that as an example. Yeah, they were doing consulting work recently. I think this was 2023 until present or something like that. So they just talked about the things that were relevant and then a few of the key accomplishments that they had from that work. If you have notable clients or companies that are relevant, you could do notable clients and then list out company name. That's something else that folks have done or that we've done for folks. And you can do that. Good question. A few of my star stories are from beyond 15 years ago. Hopefully they are relevant to the hiring teams. Sometimes they are. I said that a little sassily. As long as they're relevant, it doesn't matter when they're from. That's especially true for like leadership things. There may have been something really cool that you did 15 years ago, and people are people. Leading people hasn't changed all that much in the last 15 years. So I shouldn't say that. Don't call me out. I know there's nuances and differences. Yes, guys, thank you for the questions. I wasn't expecting to have so many good questions. So I'm not sad that we didn't get to the resumes, especially since we'll do that workshop next week. Y'all are asking really, really good questions. A lot of times when we do these, people ask really nitpicky questions that aren't super relevant or aren't super important. But everybody, so far at least that I've seen, that's been asking questions, really, really good. And yes, I bet there's a bunch of people in the same boat that are benefiting, or hopefully there are people who are benefiting from this. Actually, that would be a good thing to ask. Is this helpful for you guys? Are you guys getting value from this? Even though we changed plans a little bit and I'm not going as in depth on individual resumes, is this still helpful for you guys? Let me know. If it is, I don't think I can convince Gaurav to do this. I might make this just like a weekly session because I feel like the resume is the thing that causes such a hang up for people, and it's not the thing that's moving the needle. As long as it's good enough, like we got to get you past it as soon as possible. So yeah, let me know if this is helpful. Been doing it this style. Let me know if doing this more often, maybe it's like every Tuesday I do a resume live or something like that, if that would be helpful. All right. And I do have a hard stop in a couple minutes, but I'll answer as many questions as I can before that. If your title differed from an industry standard title, when does that matter on your resume, on LinkedIn, during a background check? Great question. So I was just talking to somebody about this earlier today. If you work at a company that, let's say, functionally, you are a senior program manager. Like when you're reading job descriptions of senior program managers, every single, you're like, yep. I've done that. You're a senior program manager. But for whatever reason, your company calls that like the safe keeper of programs that are monitored, or I don't know, some ridiculous title that doesn't mean anything to anyone, then I would recommend on your resume and your LinkedIn profile, use your functional title. Don't lie and say you're a program manager if you're not functionally a program manager. I'm not saying that. But if functionally there is this title called, senior program manager that recruiters and hiring managers quickly grasp, and the safekeeper of Blue Pen program, whatever your actual title is, save that for the background check. When you go through the background check, that's where they're validating, like, yes, you actually had this employment at this company and all of that. And that's where you want to get into the specifics. But generally, just having a functional title on your resume and LinkedIn profile is best practices. Sometimes we've had folks do like their functional title and then in parentheses, they'll put like what their real title was, safekeeper of the Blue Pen or whatever I said. What if you've been consulting with several big clients? Would you want to break those details out by clients? Yes. So similar to what I think this was asked after I shared that example, you'll just break it out and you'll put the client, like the key achievements for each of those, especially if they're names that people would instantly recognize. How do you include your other experience on LinkedIn when you add the company, it asks you to list the dates that you're there? Yeah, so that's where you've got to weigh the pros and cons of, like, if you are in that 15 plus year category, 20 years ago, unless the logo is really helpful, I just wouldn't even put it on your LinkedIn. If the logo is really helpful, then you can just include it. And yes, you'll have to put dates on there. This works for people who've stayed within the same industry, role, and progression. What if you have been in different roles in diverse industries? So same thing. A lot of our folks that come to us have some interesting backgrounds, some non-linear paths that they've done. You're just going to want to make sure you're only including the things that are relevant to the target industry and target role that you're targeting next. Awesome. Super happy to hear that this has been helpful. Every Tuesday sounds great. Okay, I'm not committing to that. Just let the record show. Regular sessions. Yeah. How do you show education if you've only completed 100 credit hours towards a BA? I talk about this in that free guide too. We have plenty of folks that we've worked with that are getting $500,000 plus salaries, or they're executives now who have 0 college degree. They just leave that blank. Joined late. How do we sign up? Oh, to sign up for the resume workshop, I'm going to share, let's see. I am going to share all of the details in the newsletter this week. So if you go to careersprout.com/newsletter, if you're already signed up for it, you don't have to do anything. If you are not signed up for it, just go to careersprout.com/newsletter and you can sign up for that. All of our previous ones, I shouldn't say all of them, when we have time to upload them, we upload the previous ones there. So if you don't want to give us your email to get tips, that's fine. You can see them all here. If you want to be notified for when we announce the resume and share the Zoom link, just go ahead and sign up right here. Let's see. Don't forget to share the resume product. Oh, thank you very much. I will do that right now. So here you go, amigos. Oh, I'm actually not on LinkedIn right now. There we go. Product bullet point library. There you go. I think hopefully y'all can see that. If you can't, actually, you know what I'll do? I'll just add, I don't think you guys are going to have access to that because it's in the private folder. I will, over the next couple of days, I'll make a note and I will add it to the how to write good enough resume document that y'all already have. Oh, that's not a question. Well, thank you. I'm happy to hear that's helpful. Can you share how relevant, important it is to use icons and logos in resumes? If you mean pictures, it's very not important. Actually, it usually hurts more than it helps if you're sending it to any sort of ATS. If you are looking to change industries, how would you recommend displaying your transferable skills? Great question. So this comes up a lot when we work with military veterans. For any of you that were that are military veterans, thank you, like you speak a different language. Like, yeah, you're talking in English for the most part, but like you've got to translate from military speak to English for the average civilian to know what the heck you're talking about. So when we work with folks, especially if they're going to operations or program management, whatever, it's okay, let's translate from military to civilian, and then from civilian to specific industry and role that you're targeting. How a program manager talks about things is slightly different than how an engineer would talk about things. Slightly different depending on, if you're in tech versus construction or whatever. So do that job description research, study 15 to 25 job descriptions of your target roles. And then you're just going to go through the bullet points, read how they're speaking about it, and translate what you've done into their language. That does not mean, I have to make this disclaimer now because I've said this in the past and somebody came at me and said that I told them to lie and they got in trouble for it. I'm not telling you to lie. If you had to manage, if you were leading a platoon or whatever, like it's perfectly fine for you to talk about leading cross-functional teams. That is what that is the verbiage that you have used. If you have not led people, then you do not want to lie and say that you have led people because you think that you're qualified for this role that you're not qualified for. So do not lie, but you can translate from your previous industry's lingo to the new industry's lingo, so long as it's authentic to you. All right. I think I have time for like 2 more questions. How important is it to have work product example website that you built? Different levels of importance for different roles, like marketing people, that tends to be more important. Everybody else, not usually important. Metrics are usually more important. Okay, yeah, y'all don't have access to that. I will update for those of you who don't have the how to write good enough resumes. Let me share that, and I will make sure y'all, probably not today, but I will by hopefully our Tuesday session be able to update this with the libraries that we have here. Let's see. Okay, actually, I think we got to all of the questions. That was perfect timing. Thank you guys. For those of you who showed up and came, thank you for showing up and appreciate you guys. Hopefully this was helpful. I'll keep you guys posted in the newsletter. It goes out on Sunday morning. I'll make sure the details are there for the resume stuff that we talked or the resume workshop for what will most likely be on Tuesday of next week.